Good morning and happy all those mothers out there. We're so glad you've joined us for our worship time this morning. You know, the Bible tells us that we are to love our parents. And today we specifically honor our moms. And we're told that we should love and respect them. And no better way than Dwayne to start off our morning. And he's going to start off by playing Love Lifted Me. Thank you, Dwayne. Another beautiful job. And nothing can lift us like love. There was a lady who got a call from her friend, a mom. And a friend called her and said, "How are you doing?" And she answered the phone. She says, "Oh, I'm doing terrible." She says, "I have a splitting headache. My back is killing me. My house is a mess. And my kids are out of control." And a friend said, "Listen," she said, "just go up and lay down. Take a nap." She said, "I'll come over, I'll clean the house, I'll watch the kids, and I'll make them lunch." And then she said, "By the way," she said, "how's Sam doing?" And the lady said, "Sam, who's that?" And she said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I must have called the wrong number." And there was silence. There was a pause there on the other line of the call. And she said, "Are you still coming over?" Live long and prosper. Now, if you're familiar with Star Trek, it's not about, you might think, well, that's where that phrase originated from when Spock said, "live long and prosper." And he did his Vulcan thing. I've never been able to do that where he makes the V with his fingers there. I'm not double jointed. But it didn't actually start with Spock, although he would have known it because it's a Jewish descent. It comes from an old, abbreviated Jewish religious blessing called Shalom, which means peace unto you. Live long and prosper. We're told in the Bible, in the 5th commandment, that we are to honor our father and our mother. A big step toward living a longer life. Now, have you ever asked the question, why did God put that commandment in there, honor our mother and our fathers? Well, one reason is that there's no parent who is perfect. We all make mistakes. And we remember that our parents, we were created through them, through God, in a unique way for what He wanted us to do. And we are to honor our parents for life. And as we think about that this morning, as we honor our parents for life, today we specifically have chosen this date, May 10th, to honor our mothers. So I want to honor all of our mothers, our birth mothers, our foster mothers, our stepmothers, our adopted mothers, all mothers. I want to read to you our portion of Scripture this morning found in Ephesians chapter 6. Let me read you these 3 verses. Ephesians chapter 6, verses 1 through 3. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor thy father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise, that it may be well with thee, and that thou mayest live long on the earth. So if you and I, if we are told to honor our parents for all of our lives, how do we do that? Well, the first step is, for those of you that are listening maybe this morning, or you have children that are younger, the first step is how do I honor my parents for a lifetime? As a child and as a young person, I start off by listening to them and what they have to say. So sometimes as children, it's difficult for us to listen to our parents regardless of what age we are. But we're told to listen to them. It's like the young mom that was out working in the garden. And her 4-year-old son was playing in the garage. And he had this dream that he wanted to fly like Peter Pan. So he was playing in there, and he got on the top step of the garage, and he practiced flying, and he leaped off, and she heard this thud in the garage. She came running in, and she said, "Honey, what happened?" He said, "Well, I was trying to play Peter Pan. I was trying to fly, and I fell down the steps." And she took her and she put her arm around him. She said, "Honey," she goes, "let me explain the difference to you between reality and between fantasy." And when she got done, she looked at him. She says, "Now, do you understand what I'm talking about?" And he kind of nodded his head. And then as she was walking away, she could hear him mumble under his breath, "Not enough pixie dust." Now, ever since the time we are children, it is hard for us to listen. But if we want to honor our parents, we need to begin by starting by listening to what they have to say. God has blessed them. He's given us our parents that they might instruct us, that they might help us. And when we listen to them, we are actually honoring Him. The second thing is we need to learn to accept them for good and bad. We didn't have the choice to pick our parents, but remember, neither did they. And if we go back and we think about that, I'm reminded that just a few years ago, Good Morning America did a survey. And they asked people to share who their favorite parents were over the past several decades, TV parents. Number one was Clara Huxtable. Number two was Miriam Cunningham. Remember those days of Happy Day. And number three was Marge Simpson. Not quite sure how she made it on that list, maybe because she put up with Homer. But they said, you know what? One of the important things is that we not just listen to our parents, but we also accept them for who they are. That we don't just say, well, I picture them in the mind of this is the way I want them to be, and if they're not that way, I have difficult time accepting them. He says, listen to your parents, accept them for the good and bad, and remember to also to forgive your parents when they make a mistake, because one day you and I also will be making mistakes. Sometimes we can go back. It's interesting to go back and think of things, issues 20, 30, 40 years ago. And you remember your parents saying things and think, oh, I can't believe it. And then you go back now, and if you had the opportunity to raise your kids, maybe you go back and you look at things that maybe you said or maybe you did, and you think, oh, wow, at the time that seemed like that was the way to do it. Someone put a list together of things a mother would never say. One of the things a mother would never say, they listed, was, it's okay to skip school. I always did. Come here a minute. Let me smell that shirt you have on again. Oh, yeah, don't worry about it. That's good for another week. And, oh, the strays, yeah, bring those strays home. I'll be more than happy to feed them and give them a walk. And then there was another one they talked about, they said a mother would never say. They said, a curfew is just a guide. What do you think this is, a prison? And you don't need to wear a jacket out there. The wind chill will improve, I'm sure. Now, we listen to our parents, we accept them, we love them, and God says we are to honor them all of our lives, and it starts as a child by learning just to listen. It's one of the most important lessons to learn, but sometimes one of the most difficult lessons to practice is just learning how to listen and then obeying and following it and then accepting them for who they are and learning to forgive for even the mistakes that they make. We go on and we say, well, how else can I honor my parents if I'm supposed to do that for all of my life? We begin as a child by listening, by accepting, by forgiving. And what about as I come into adulthood? How am I to honor my parents? Proverbs chapter 23 and verse 25 says that we are to make our parents happy. We are to bring them joy. So how do I show my parents that I love them when I come into my adulthood? The biggest things is by learning and showing that we appreciate them. We appreciate our parents for all that they have done, by appreciating them, to think of their effort. You know, parenting is not easy. Parenting is tough. Think of all the rides to school, the meals, the clothes, the sacrifices, the trips, all these things that our moms have done for us. I remember many years ago thinking about my mom, which now she went to heaven about 5 weeks ago, and she's once again reunited with my father. I'm so happy for that. I'm so thankful for the many lessons that I learned. I'm so thankful for all that she did, that God blessed her with 99 years. We're so thankful for what she gave to us. But I remember one day when I came running out of basketball practice when I was in high school, and she had come to pick me up. And I ran out of practice, and it was a cold January day, and I flew open, I jumped in the car, and I sat down, and I said, "Let's go!" Except I looked over, and that wasn't my mom in the driver's seat. I had come out and gotten the wrong car in front of me, and she was sitting right behind me, laughing. And this wasn't like her. And I got in the car, and I said, "I can't believe you didn't honk or anything." She goes, "I just knew you were going to do that." I'm thankful, appreciate the many things I was able to learn for her, the many things that she did for me. But we have to learn to appreciate our parents, and today is a special day as we think specifically of our moms, to appreciate all the things that they have done for us through the years, all the different tasks that they've taken and they've completed for us. I'm thankful for my wife Debbie and the good job she's done with our two boys. We have a lot to appreciate today. As we think about that this morning, as we think about appreciating their effort for what they've done, their sacrifice. Parenting is not just difficult, but it's also expensive. Recent surveys showed that if a child today, the average cost of a child from the time they are born until the time they are 17 years old is $250,000 is the cost it takes to raise a child. So there's a lot of sacrifice. A lot of moms have worked. A lot of moms have given up their so-called careers. A lot of moms have put in extra hours, even after they've worked and they've come home, to make sure that their children are well taken care of. And maybe you can relate over the years, remembering some of the sacrifices that your mother made for you in order to take care of you. So if we're going to appreciate our parents as adults, we have to learn steps to be thankful for the sacrifices that they made, for the efforts that they made, for all the times that they put up with us. Remember the various stages? And now you can't fool me. Everybody's gone through stages. Can you remember those times when you just gave your mom and your dad fits? You remember those stages you went through, the things you did? And they're thinking, "Oh no, is this kid ever going to get it? Are they ever going to grow up? Do they understand these things?" To go back, and today would be a good day to go back and remember some of those things. I remember growing up, we had in our house, my mom and dad's bedroom was upstairs and mine was downstairs, and had a back door on the basement that I could get out. And I remember on Friday nights, the big thing was I would sneak out late at night and run down to my friend's house. And I had like 23 successful missions that I had and never got caught. So one Friday night, I ran down about 10 minutes from where my friend lived, and it was late at night. And all of a sudden, one of my other friends didn't know I was gone, didn't know which bedroom window was mine, so he went up and rapped on my mom and dad's window instead of mine. So it woke them up. She came downstairs, looked in my room, came back and told my dad. She said, "Harold," she goes, "John's gone. Wonder where he's at." So they got worried, and they started calling, and they called my one friend who's about 10 minutes away, and he answers the phone. We don't usually answer the phone for the first ring at 2 o'clock in the morning. But he answers the phone in the first ring, and he goes, "Oh, don't worry. I'm sure that John will be home soon." So I ran home, and I came up the backyard, and we had a little beagle. His name was Happy. He stayed down in the pen in the backyard. And I remember running up the backyard and running up to the house, and all of a sudden the big floodlights in the backyard came on, and I came in, and I came up with this almost ridiculous story in the world. I'm embarrassed to say that I actually said this. And I said, I said, someone was trying to steal the dog down there. They hit me over the head, and when the lights came on, I came to. And my dad came down, and he was real sensitive, and he's feeling his hand all over my head, trying to, find a bump. My mom walks in, and she just knew everything, and I knew it. She looks right at me, and she goes, "Oh, Harold, he's lying." She caught me right off the bat. You see, there's something about moms. Moms understand us. Moms know us. But as we go to appreciate what our parents have done, investment in our lives, not just as children, but now as we get into adulthood, these are good times. Today is a good time to sit down, and I challenge you sometime this afternoon or today to get alone for a few minutes and just think about the investment that your mom has made in your life. The sacrifices, the things that she has done, how she's helped you in many different ways. And you say, "Lord, it's more than just saying thanks." Learning to appreciate into adulthood all the things that have gone on humbles us and changes our lives. He says you have to learn to accept them. You have to learn to appreciate them for putting up with this. And another way that we can show them appreciation is to stay in touch with them. In today's world, we'd like it if everybody lived 10 minutes away. But in reality, many times that doesn't happen. Kids move away, they're gone, they get older, they have their own families, they have their own things going on in life. One of the greatest ways you can appreciate your parents and your mother is to stay in touch. Hopefully you've already done that. You've sent a card, you've talked to them, you've emailed them, you've messaged them, some way you've reached out and you've talked to them. But if not, don't forget to do that. Appreciation is staying in touch. I talk to many people. As I talk to people, it's interesting to see those who stay in constant touch with their parents, how happy they are, how joyful they are, because they're still in contact. And then there's others. You can almost see the pain on their face. You can see it in the expression in their face. You can hear it in their voices, of the pain of being separated from their parents. So maybe something's happened, they lost contact, and there isn't that daily communication. I know even as a dad, I'm so thankful for our two boys. One is not too far away from me. The other one's in Southern California. And I'm so thankful for the effort they make almost on a daily basis to contact me and ask me, "Are you okay? What's going on?" And I'm able to talk to them. I'm so thankful for the connection. I'm so thankful for the desire. And do you know how many parents are out there and they're saying, "I wish my son or daughter would take time, just even if it's 5 minutes, you might have a busy schedule, to reach out and say, 'Mom, Dad, I love you. Thank you for what you've done for me.'" In the midst of busy schedules, in the midst of busy lives, we often have forgot how important it is to stay in contact. One of the ways we can show them appreciation is by staying in contact and by helping them. The Bible tells us it's not just a nice thing to do to help our parents, but it says it's actually a spiritual responsibility that we have to help our parents. During the time that we're going through right now, one of the encouraging things is that how many of kids have actually told their parents, "You're not going out, you're staying in. You give me the list of what you need, I'll go to the store, you stay home, I'll get it, I'll deliver it, I'll put it on your front door." And they have gone and they have done that. And it's been amazing to see how many have come and stepped up during this period where they've actually helped their parents and helped other people. And that's a real blessing. And God will reward that. And God will bless it for your efforts of helping other people. But there's no better way than to help others. You know, in the book of John chapter 19, when Christ was hanging on the cross, some of the last words he ever uttered as he turned and faced John the beloved, he said, "Behold my mother." Behold my mother. What did he mean? He meant, John, your responsibility is to look after Mary, is to watch her to make sure she's okay. Behold my mother. You see, God says it's not just something nice to do, it's something that each of us has a responsibility to have, that we may watch those that God has given to us. But this morning you might say, Pastor John, I know I should honor my parents. I know I should love my mom. I know I should appreciate her, and we should. But maybe you don't understand my situation. Maybe my parents, or specifically maybe my mom, hurt me. When I think of my mom, I have painful memories because there's a lot of hurt. And when it comes to a day like this on Mother's Day, how am I to respond? Well, God tells us in Proverbs chapter 27, verse 10, he says, even when our parents forsake us, that he will not. And he tells us the greatest thing is to understand is that one day, each of us will answer for the things we have done. Your parents, if they have harmed you, forsaken you of their godly responsibility, will one day have to answer to God for what they have done. And we don't have to go through life by faking it like everything's okay. We don't have to do that. We have to have what? To come up with the courage to be able to face those hurts. How do I honor that? Well, we have to honor it by being honest, by facing it, by honoring maybe the good things in the relationship we have. By honoring those good things, the good memories that we have, is by honoring those things. And then the next step, maybe one of the most important steps for many people through the years that have been hurt, is that we have to be able to get it out. We have to be able to give it over to God. We have to be able to give that hurt to him. Because here's what happens. If we don't get it out, we pass it on. You see, many who have had painful childhoods because they were never able to recover, they were never able to face it, they were never able to get rid of it, now continue to pass it on to the generations that come after them. So that same hurt, that same emptiness, that same anxiety is passed from one generation to the next. And God says, I love you. Give it to me. Give me all those burdens that you can let go of that so you don't continue to pass it on. You know, the Bible tells us that children are a gift and our parents are a gift to us. And on this Mother's Day, I want to read you something I read this past week I found very interesting. It's entitled, talking about a mom who had gone through all of her tasks and sometimes felt, challenged because all she'd done, and does anybody really realize what it is all that I'm doing? Her name was Nicole Johnson, and she wrote an article entitled, she actually wrote a book, I Am Invisible. Let me read you an excerpt this morning. It all began to make sense. The blank stares, the lack of response. The way one of the kids will walk into the room while I'm on the phone and ask to be taken to the store. Inside I'm thinking, can't you see I'm on the phone? Obviously not. No one can see if I'm on the phone or cooking or sweeping the floor or even standing on my head in the corner because no one can see me at all. I'm invisible. Some days I'm only a pair of hands, nothing more. Can you fix this? Can you tie this? Can you open this? Some days I'm not a pair of hands. I'm not even a human being. I'm a clock to ask, what time is it? I'm a satellite guide to answer, what number is the Disney Channel? I'm a car to order, right around 5:30, please. I was certain that these were the hands that once held books and the eyes that studied history and the mind that graduated summa cum laude. But now they had disappeared into the peanut butter. Never to be seen again. She's going, she's going, she's gone. And she said a friend had come back to Europe where they had visited several beautiful cathedrals and with how beautiful. And she heard the stories and it kind of depressed her because she thought how wonderful they were able to go and see that. But I'm looking at all the responsibilities I have here and I can't make those travels. But her friend handed her a specific book on cathedrals, knowing what state she was in. At first she wondered, why did they give me this book? And there was a note inscribed inside. It said, as she looked ahead after she read this book, it said, "No one can say who built the great cathedrals. We have no record of their names. These builders gave their whole lives for a work they would never see finished. They made great sacrifices and expected no credit. The passion of their building was fueled by their faith that the eyes of God saw everything." And then she began. This past summer, Debbie and I had the privilege of going to Europe and seeing it for the first time. One of the places we stopped was Barcelona, Spain. And in Barcelona, Spain, there's this tremendous cathedral, one of the most beautiful, renowned cathedrals in all of the world. Its name is Sagrada Familia. And the designer of this cathedral was Antone Gaudí. And he worked in this cathedral from 1883 to 1926 at his death. And when he passed away, the work was only a quarter. He never got to see the completion of his work. And his work is scheduled to be finished. The cathedral is expected to be finished in the year 2026 on the 100th anniversary of his death. You see, sometimes you may not understand it. Moms are building great cathedrals. One may realize what we have been built by the sacrifice of the invisible time we're spending together. You may not see it now, but one day, God will bless, and he will use those things that you thought were invisible, that he saw all those years, and he will use the works that you have labored, the works that you have sacrificed for, the works that you have given, will create great cathedrals in this life of what you have been building and what you have been accomplishing. As we close our time together this morning, loving parents are truly a gift from God. If we are to have a happy and fulfilling life, God commands us to love and to take care of our parents. As a mom and a dad today, you may say, I love my kids, and I've given my life for them, I've sacrificed, but they don't seem to understand. What we have to remember is that God has seen our efforts and will reward those efforts. And one day, if we know him, we will meet our heavenly Father and be a part of a heavenly family. So remember today, as we close, to honor and obey and to love your parents. For even at times that you may not think that God does not see, God sees it, and he's promised to reward it and bless it. This morning, as we close our time together, Dwayne is going to play for us on the organ. And the Bible tells us we are to trust and obey. And this morning, he's going to close our time together. I'll be back to pray. He's going to play Trust and Obey. Trust and obey for there's no other way. I want to thank you for joining us this morning and pray today will be a special day as you honor those parents, you honor especially your mom today, and even if she's gone in heaven, to take some time and remember all the good things that she has done and implanted in your life and invested. I'm going to ask you this time, if you would, to bow your heads in a word of prayer. Father, we thank you for loving us, for we know that you are a true heavenly Father. We thank you for your love. We thank you for the moms that you've given to us. Lord, we thank you for how you've blessed and used them in our lives. I pray that we would honor and obey them, not just as children, but Lord, even into our adult years. We know that you've promised to bless that if we do that. And Father, we continue to pray for those outside of us, our leaders, for those that are hospitals or frontline workers, mail workers, everybody, Lord, as our country begins to open back up. I pray that you keep us safe and that we continue to trust in you and follow your direction. In Jesus' name, amen. Now don't forget, we'll be back Wednesday morning. Dwayne, I'll be back for our devotional at 10:30. I hope that you will join us at that time. And remember, I know it's getting tough, but keep washing those hands. Be vigilant, stay safe. And until Wednesday, Happy Mother's Day, and God bless.